China and Russia's new plan for Bitcoin has been revealed. But I'm going to dive into all of this and why this is potentially one of the biggest backflips we've ever seen in Bitcoin. And it's all because Donald Trump is starting massive amounts of nation state FOMO. Of course, we're talking about how China and Russia are now allegedly encouraging more domestic Bitcoin mining. While typically post halving Bitcoin price has occurred, mostly due to the election of Trump. Sure. Let's look at the historical price actions here in a little bit. But the increase of the network hash rate has pushed up and difficulty and reduced hash price. These tweaking economics are further pushing miners to explore a pivot into data centers. But why is this a huge Bitcoin backflip, not only for China, but also for Russia? Let's dive in to how the relationship with China and Bitcoin has developed massively over time, right? China has been cracking down on Bitcoin miners. I actually tried to find the video of the like cement trucks that were running over Bitcoin miners not too long ago, right? But China has been cracking down on Bitcoin mining, and it has been something that they have continued to do over time, right? I did a video yesterday, and we'll dive into it more a little bit potentially later about the Kingdom of Bhutan and their relationship with China, who has been mining Bitcoin more and more and more. But China has always been somewhat anti-Bitcoin mining because they think it is, taking away the power and everything else. And the US benefited from that, right? We saw the hash rate move significantly away from China into places like the United States and surprisingly into places like Kazakhstan. So, and also moving to Russia as well, places with cheap power. China essentially just moved it all over, right? So they've been essentially just very negative towards Bitcoin for a while. And look at this, in outskirts of Kearney, Nebraska, 40-foot shipping containers lined up in rows. But as you approach, you notice one thing: it makes a lot of noise because of the Bitcoin miners. But this is not just about China, right? This is also about Russia as well. So now enemies of the United States are severely moving towards Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, right? So these countries move while seemingly at odds, underscore the country's strategic deployment of digital assets to address both domestic and international challenges. Russia is taking a dual approach to cryptocurrency, imposing a sweeping ban on mining in an energy-strapped region, while simultaneously leveraging Bitcoin to facilitate cross-border payments. When was this article written? December 26, 2024. Look at that. So within a 5-month period, maybe even less, if my maths is incorrect, Russia and China have now done a complete Bitcoin backflip. Originally, Russia was using Bitcoin to avoid sanctions, or at least allegedly, right? They were using Bitcoin to avoid sanctions. And they've been doing that for years. And Russia has had seemingly a love-hate relationship with Bitcoin mining. Do they use all of these different aspects of their energy reserves in order to mine more Bitcoin? They flip-flopped on that, at least in the public's eye. Who knows whether or not Russia and Putin is actually doing that, because everything in Russia and China is kept relatively close to the vest, which, in a sense, I kind of respect, right? I actually saw a video the other day from this guy, Andy Frashilla. Maybe many of you guys know him, a big influencer. He says a man has at least 2 or 3 friends that he could call up at 3 a.m. and say, hey, I need you to come over. We need to help with something. China, that's the entire country. They keep everything close to the vest. Similarly with Russia as well, right? So they are continuing to mine Bitcoin and continue to see this flowing industry continue to move into Bitcoin or into Russia and China. Now let's look at the countries with the largest hash rate, right? There was worries at some point in time that we would face a 51% attack. So for those of you who don't know what a 51% attack is, it was one of the biggest FUDs spread in the Bitcoin space maybe 5 or 6 years ago at this point in time. But essentially, it was that over half of the overall hash rate would be centralized into one region of the world. And that was a big worry because China essentially almost had that nearly. But dum-dums at China decided to ban Bitcoin mining. And now they're trying to bring it back. So they're trying to revert to that simply because Trump is very pro crypto and pro Bitcoin, obviously. But anyway, regardless, that's the point here is that we see 38% of the overall hash rate in the United States, from what we can tell. China coming in at number 2 at 21%. And then Kazakhstan, where a lot of people moved from China when they banned mining. Of course, then we got Canada and Russia just down there. So out of the top 5 countries, we've got 2 of them now saying, hey, we are encouraging you guys to continue to domestically mine Bitcoin. Russia has massive amounts of energy, right? What's a big similarity between Russia and Canada? Canada is one of the world's largest users of energy in order to heat your homes, right? Because Canada's freezing cold. So same with Russia. They're one of the countries that uses the most energy that there is in the world as well, especially per capita. So utilizing Bitcoin miners potentially to, add the excess heat, balance the grid, et cetera, et cetera. You guys on the chat all know the benefits of Bitcoin mining. But what this is showing is that Russia and China are all looking at this and saying, hey, we are looking at Bitcoin as a potential to see that the use of energy and the massive amounts of abundant energy, green energy that we have in our countries. We can use that to essentially get more Bitcoin. And now we're seeing that as freedom technology. We can use Bitcoin to potentially, conduct and avoid sanctions. There's all these different kind of layers to this story, which makes it very, very interesting. But we are continuing to see China and Russia start to do that, right? Because at first we did see this. China is selling seeds crypto. Were they actually doing it? That's another big question, right? We're seeing rumors circulating about what China and what Russia and like all these guys are doing when it comes to negative things with Bitcoin, but we don't necessarily see a lot of evidence that this is coming true. Reuters reported that local governments are using private companies to sell that, going against the country's trading brand. See, they're all reportedly selling ways. The absence of clear of how they've led to inconsistent and opaque approaches. But the Chinese local government are using private companies to sell this, right? They've held an alleged 194,000 Bitcoin, 16 billion, the second largest. And they were selling that allegedly. They were allegedly selling all of this. And Ukraine obviously has a big holding there. And we'll see where that goes over time. But what we are seeing is that we're seeing 2 countries that are at the top of the hash rate now say that they want to double and triple and quadruple down. And so one of the biggest backflips in Bitcoin that we've ever seen is now actually coming to fruition, where China was allegedly going to sell their Bitcoin off. China allegedly, or not alleged, China did ban Bitcoin mining at one point in time. In fact, showed videos of them running over Bitcoin miners. And then now we have this report from Jeffries that Bitcoin that China and Russia are now encouraging them to mine Bitcoin, right? Domestically. A lot of people have been looking at, tariffs can lead this disruption of ASICs. Their production is primarily in Taiwan and Malaysia. I wonder why China wants to attack Taiwan. Makes you think, right? The supply chain for Bitcoin mining ASICs is simpler than the HPC data centers, which have more inputs and more complex supply chain. And the difficulty continues to increase, right? We've had a relatively flat Bitcoin price, but I see a few people in the chat talking about, hey, we've got some skyrockets in flight. Afternoon delight. We've got, even though we're coming at you early in the morning, down under Blue's nose, that we've got a little bit of a pump ski going on here. We're seeing it. Oh, look at this. Late yesterday. Uh-oh. Not only did we have Easter, Jesus Christ rising from the dead, we've got a little bit of a pump ski here. 3.6% up. So we're seeing everything start to shoot up here. The China might have been faking Bitcoin ban and sailing may accumulate. Yep. I mean, I agree with you. I think that they might have it's called green candle on blue pills. That's wild. You guys are coming at me hot early this morning. We do have the fat candle day. It is the new standard measurement of money. Bitcoin is the common denominator. Look, I don't have too much of an issue with, the downstairs region. So I don't know if I need the blue pills. Maybe for the blood flow or the circulation. I don't know. I'm still a young chap here. NASDAQ is going the other way. Potentially we are getting the decoupling that we've all been looking for. And why is that? Maybe it's because of this news here. We've got a lot of bullish news that we've seen. And we're seeing that continue to pump and pump and pump. Right? I think it's interesting, the China ban, everything that we've got going on here. Uh-oh. And we just got some more bullish news breaking here. We've got Tom Lee saying that he thinks the deleveraging is done.
Introduce you. Let's bring in Tom Lee, head of research at Fundstrat, chief investment officer at Fundstrat Capital, as well as a CNBC contributor. And I don't remember whether it was you or Pump when we were talking about Bitcoin sort of stuck under 85,000 with gold going up every day. And it was either you or Pump that said Bitcoin usually follows a couple of months later, but has a much bigger move.
That was probably Pump.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as these guys are saying, hey, Bitcoin follows gold. And if you guys have known, I've been tracking all of this, right? We've seen the writing on the wall, right? The difficulty of Bitcoin's hash rate has been continuing to increase. The hash rate has continued to reach all-time high. It was only a matter of time before Bitcoin's price starts to catch up and starts to really pump here. So we're getting a little bit of a pump ski, to say the very least here. A little bit of the skyrockets in flight, as you guys know and love. And so because of that, let's give you guys some of these free sats that we've got here, because the Bitcoin Well, my favorite place to buy Bitcoin, because you could set up a DCA to immediately get your Bitcoin directly to cold storage, right? You could get it directly to cold storage. Few other places in the United States can do that. And look at all the free ways that they give you in order to buy, or in order to continue to stack wishing well tokens. So Bitcoin Well, you'll get wishing well tokens every time you buy Bitcoin. 3 for $10, 5 for every $10 recurring buy, 500 on your first transaction. Every time you invite a friend, you get 500 as well. You get 500. You could play the wishing well, and playing the wishing well, you could win up to 1 million sats. So all these psychopaths over here at the Bitcoin Well will give you free Satoshis, and I'm doing the same thing here. And look, get your Lightning wallets ready, scan it as soon as possible. 210 sats straight to the dome piece. There we go. Oh, Bitcoin Bull is saying that you're coming out with a BTC music video soon. You guys will enjoy. I hope you get a little voiceover from me. If you need me to do the skyrockets in flight, I'm here, man. Get me in on that appearance there. But if you guys are missing this opportunity to get the 210 sats, you could buy Bitcoin at bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. Continue to buy Bitcoin, send it to cold storage. And as I lined out there, you guys can continue to stack. And if you are a big bag holder, look, I know not everybody's blessed enough to have this, but some of you guys in this chat are. I know. We've got some big brains in the chat. And so if you guys want to buy 50K or more, you're looking at this Bitcoin price running up. You're like, all right, I don't want to miss this opportunity. Book a call with their specialist at their OTC desk. Then go to bitbox.swiss/greencandle. You will buy this Bitbox 02. I prefer the Bitcoin only edition. Buy all that. Get all of this, the Steel Wallet, the Steel Wallet Pro, the Seed, or get your stamps or get your Seed stamped into something like that and continue to push self-custody and use promo code GreenCandle. You'll get 5% off here, right? Because we will see Bitcoin's hash rate continue. Tom Lee, all of these guys are looking at this as the potential of the decoupling here. Smoke the like Cheech and Chong, don't forget. Because we're going to see this start to shoot up, right? The writing is all on the wall. We are living in a time where we all know what Bitcoin is coming to. And we're seeing the hash rate continue to reach new all-time highs. Right? The Bitcoin hash rate continues day in, day out to keep reaching these all-time highs. And everybody is just looking at, hey, when is it going to catch up? When is price going to pump? Bitcoin hash rate will not chill. It keeps on pumping up. Even though we haven't had the price action that we've seen to keep on pumping up the price. Look, like we're all saying, Pomp, Tom Lee, all these guys are looking at gold prices running up. Look, we're even getting United States Mint ads here on TradingView. But these guys are looking at this price. Look, I mean, it's only a matter of time before the Bitcoin price starts to get with all this buying power. We've had Adam Back say all this. We've had a lot of Bitcoin OGs start to look at the way with this. And then now we're seeing China and Russia really look at Bitcoin as, hey, this is something that is going to continue to start to pump. This is something that we need to utilize as much energy as possible in order to accumulate that as much as well. I mean, I'm with you guys. I want Mr. Krabs for Bitcoin as well because, you know, I want to see that thing start to hum. Or I want to see that thing stay down so I can, so I could keep stacking. It looks like we've got some, Cheech and Chong came out with a documentary. Uh-oh. All-Nighter Hider. How do you not know this, man? You're the smoking like Cheech and Chong guy. You got to know what these guys are doing. Maybe I need to stay up to date on their whereabouts as well. Because let's review here. We've been seeing Russia potentially using Bitcoin in unique ways throughout this entire time, saying that they have basically been utilizing oil in trade in order to avoid sanctions, right? So they are finding true use cases for all of this, where many others aren't. They've had a top 5, even though they're very far away from the top spot. They've been 5th in overall mining here for a bit. And we're looking potentially to see some of that come to fruition here. You guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already as well, because we're seeing a little bit of dip just under now that 88,000 mark. But I think we're going to see the fundamentals start to flow up, right? The fundamentals really start to do this because we've had a lot of, I guess, let's call it fake news pumping back and forth. China, Russia, they're banning Bitcoin. They're good with Bitcoin, whatever it is. Now we're starting to see that, right? And I think that, we're going to start to see more and more nation states get on board. So smoke the like Cheech and Chong, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend. And thank you guys all for joining in on another great live stream.